Hi, and welcome to my channel. My name is Matt Kruger. I go by the Gringo online. If you haven't heard I did my first video, and now I'm just immediately jumping into number two. So that's why the shirt's the same, the hat's the same, everything, whatever. I'm stumbling through this, just trying my best. It's kind of a stream of conscious thought process right now. I'm still kind of figuring out what I want to do with this channel. If you watch my first video, you know I am very Christian, and I am leaning towards that for right now. And I don't know, like I said, wherever this goes is wherever this goes. If you do get this, like and subscribe and all that business, because I guess that helps. I'm still figuring that out. YouTube's an interesting place. I love watching videos. I watch videos all the time. In fact, I probably spend way too much time on my phone scrolling. So for my second subject that I wanted to talk about, I also want to talk about active listening. Again, due to my scrolling, I run across a lot of videos that are in my algorithm. And the thing that strikes me is watching two different people, like say on a news, that are sitting there screaming at each other, and nobody's listening. And that in itself is very, I don't know, it's unproductive to me. You know, they'd have to sit there and go and watch the video again just to have a thought, because they've already want to get their point across so badly that they don't even listen. I love movies. I watch a lot of movies, so I quote a lot of movies. And all that kind of stuff. So one of my favorite lines out of White Men Can't Jump. Love that movie. Thought it was hilarious. Wesley Snipes and Woody Allen version, or not Woody Allen, sorry, Woody Harrelson version. I liked that one. That was one of my favorites. And one of the things that they said, you're hearing me, but you're not listening to me. And I thought that was great. I used it all the time when I was working in the juvie. So yeah, this comes down to active listening. And that's something I actually taught in the juvies. There's a lot of different things I taught, and I'm probably going to talk a lot about those kind of things, because that's my world. And again, this is stream of consciousness. That's kind of right where I'm at. It's kind of a video blog at this point. Trying new things, like my angle of my camera, move it a little bit. Yeah, I'm just like, I still don't even have thumbnails yet at this point. So, active listening. What does that mean? So active listening, it's a process. It's just like anything else. You have to learn a process. Most people, when they are listening to somebody, they're already formulating a response in their head. And by reformulating that response, they get to this point where they aren't listening to what is exactly being said. And that's when you get, I need to tell my opinion right now. I need to tell you right now. I need to get it out there right now. So you end up talking over the other guy or person, whatever, until, like I said, pandemonium. And I don't know why our modern day news people, and I mean, there's other people that do really well. Joe Rogan, love Joe Rogan, watch him all the time. He is an active listener. He is a seeker. I like that about him. He will sit and listen and take it in before he formulates any kind of response, before he says anything else. And I mean, he does have other responses, and he's a little quicker at it, but I think it's because he's been doing it so long. And with everything comes practice. You got to keep trying, and you got to keep practicing. You got to get it right. So active listening, you're sitting there. The way the process goes is you sit, you listen, you don't say a word until they're done talking, and then reply with your response. Because your brain's already working that way. Your brain is constantly making your next response. But if you can stop and hold yourself back from just, going in there and doing it like that, you got to, again, I'm touching my face. Dang it, I'm going to work on that. I'm trying. I'm getting it. And this is like, my first video was this morning. I'm doing my second video, and literally a couple hours later after I uploaded my first one. So the next one, this is, hopefully a little bit better. So, anyways, active listening. Getting back to track, staying on track. Active listening. You're listening and taking in before you make your response. So, why is that important? I think you're all entitled to your opinions on everything. That's where we are. That's why we have, freedom of speech and all that business, and so you really need to take that in. You really need to think about it. And I think that would change a lot of things if people would just stop and shut up and listen for a few minutes before talking. I know it would change the community out there and the interviewing realm. But it also works in your everyday life. And there are times when I've been in situations, and this is even hard, I've had to practice this, is when I'm listening to somebody and the other person is starting to walk over me or talk over me. I'm like, hey, hang on. I'd like to get my thought out. And when I'm done, I will listen to what you have to say. And that's what it comes down to. It's a mutual respect thing. And that's important too. You got to respect people. So when it comes down to respect is something that you have to give it. And that's how you start. And that's how you make things better, is by giving respect. So when I sit down with somebody and I'm talking with them and I end up in a back and forth conversation, I want to listen to them, but then I want them to listen to me. And that's a mutual respect situation. So respect is given, but also, you have to, it's a give and take thing. My father, he used to say that respect is like a glass of water. I think this is right. I hope I'm right. If you disrespect somebody, it's like you spilled that water out on the countertop. And to rebuild that respect is kind of difficult, because you got to take that water off the countertop and put it back in the glass. That was his little deal. I don't know. It kind of made sense at the time. I hope it made sense to you. You got to, and like I said, it's kind of hard to earn respect. But when you do, there's so many benefits to that. So listen to people. Understand what's going on before you make your response. I didn't start out correctly. I was, again, new, figuring this out. So I looked up a scripture when it came to seeking. And in 2 Chronicles 7:14, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and I will forgive their sins and I will heal their land. So as I thought about that, I thought this was kind of a cool way to intertwine between the two. I think our land is damaged right now. I think America is damaged. Not in a horribly out-of-date way. I think it's going to get better. I think people want it to get better. I believe that's why we're where we're at this very moment. When we get into a politics podcast, that's going to be an interesting one. I think it's going to be a fun thing because, again, it's about respect. Left, right, whatever, indifferent, whatever you are. I don't care. As long as you respect me, respect me for my values, respect me for my viewpoint, I'm going to do the same thing for you. In fact, I'm going to do that before you do that for me because I want you to understand me. So, active listening. Keep on it. It's like you understand, you keep going. And I think that will really change like the interview process in a lot of ways. I think it's been lost. Again, things are broken in this country in certain ways. And I think that we can fix it. I think we just need to understand. We need to take patience and listen and understand what's going on. And then, like I said, think about your response. And it changes how you communicate. And I didn't think this would end up becoming a communication issue or podcast or whatever. But it's really what it is. It's about how do we communicate with each other. Because I think everybody has become like oversensitive to what's being said. We kind of lost our backbone when it comes to that. Or maybe, or the other side, it's like you don't think you're thinking of me, or you don't feel respected, or you don't feel like you're being listened to, so you have to talk over so you get your point across. Again, I understand that. Because I listened to people, and again, when I was working in juvie, you had to understand and listen to what a kid's problems were, and they had many, especially teenagers. If anything, this kind of might end up becoming more of a, process on how you can communicate with your kids and your teens, or any teen for that matter, because it's not easy. Teens are, in my opinion, figuring themselves out, and they get these ideas and they get this understanding, and that's where their identity starts to evolve. And so when that identity starts to crop up, and I have these specific understanding and specific things, and a lot of times that comes through how they were raised and how their values and stuff that came from their parents and such, and that's part of it. But then they start to diverge and try to figure themselves out. And I've seen, when I was working in mental health, I became more of a parent coach than I was there to help the youth. But I mean, so it kind of intertwined. But I did a lot of coaching for parents, and I was like, as a parent, you're in control of your child's life up until a certain point. And there's no specific point. It happens when it happens. When they start to diverge and start to make their own opinions and their own decisions and their own identity. But before that, you've been like, don't touch that hot thing. Because you're looking out to protect them and care for them and this and that. But when they get to that point, a lot of times I found that parents want to continue to try and control their kids through their teen years. And they end up banging their head against the wall because their kids are in a place where they want to be like, I want to be heard myself. And which is the human condition. We all want to be heard. We all want to be understood. And we want to make our own decisions. We want to be in charge of ourselves. And I remember when I was a kid, and that's one of the things I think I had, when I had this ability when I worked with kids to think back to the time when I was a teenager and what I was going through and what I was thinking, and articulate that in a way that was helpful to others. I hope. I mean, I could be completely off base. Who knows? But when I articulated that, it made sense to parents because, they were controlling their kids. They were in charge of that whole world. It was that box. It was right there. It was like, dun, 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 all that. Then when that kid starts to diverge and make their own decisions, their own identity and all that business, parents felt powerless. So they doubled down and they start controlling their kid even more. And I'm like, I really feel like, this is how I explained it to people, that you got to start letting loose a little bit. Not a ton. My dad used to say this to me, and I quote my dad a lot. I feel like he was a pretty decent parent, and he was a big part of my life. But he said to me one time, he's like, I'll give you a little rope. That's what he said. I'll give you like a cowboy with a lasso. I'll give you a little rope. You get out of line, I'm going to yank you back in. That's how my dad taught me as a teen. And again, that made sense. You got a little bit of freedom. I actually had a lot of freedom as a child because I didn't push the boundaries when it came down to my family. I mean, I did, but I did it in an underhand and sneaky way because that's the way I was. But I mean, again, not perfect, and I was a jerk child, really. I mean, if I look back on it, I was not a good person because, I mean, again, I was finding myself and trying out different things and figuring everything out. But my dad would do that for me. He would let me go out and try things. Let me go out and become part of the world. Let me make decisions. And he backed them. And he understood that. When I turned 18, he told me, Matt, I've made all your decisions with you and for you up to this point. Now you're on your own. You get to make your own decisions. You're on your own 100%. I will not interfere. If you need advice, come to me and I will advise you. My little consigliere. If you watch your movies, you know what that one's from. So, I mean, but it made sense. And I did that with my own child. When she turned 18, I told her the same exact thing. I took care of you. I protected you. I did everything for you up to this point. And now you're on your own, kiddo. You can come to me anytime, and I will always listen. Again, active listen, because that's important. And I think my kid's amazing. I will brag on her every day of the week. She is phenomenal. Um, and there are times as a dad, even now, she's like 25 now. And there's even a time right now where she makes a decision, and I'm like, I don't know about that one, but I'm going to keep my mouth shut because she's an adult. And I got to let her be an adult. I got to let her make those decisions. I got to let her fall. I got to let her figure it out. Anything. And it's like cutting loose of that, letting those, the apron string thing, for those of you that don't know, it's, I guess, that was an old term when moms would walk around with an apron and they have their kids hold on to the apron string. When they cut the apron string, they were cut loose. Again, old adages. I love that stuff. And where that comes from and what was the process for that we got there. And that was one of those. When you cut those apron strings, you got to let them go. You got to let them be them. And as a parent, that's freaking hard. But not impossible. Again, it takes patience, it takes time. And that's important. Patience is a huge virtue with everybody. I think that we've also lost a lot of patience because we live in a 30-second society. And I call that like that because you want something, you go to McDonald's, you want food, and go through McDonald's and get your food. And then you got it there in 30 seconds. And they have like timers and stuff to get it out as fast as they can so that you have your stuff immediately. And that was their whole deal, their whole spiel. If you watched the founder, the Kronk, that Kronk guy, whatever, he, and how they designed McDonald's is to get it out fast, get it out immediately. And so we become accustomed to that. So where's patience in all that? We've lost it, and it's an important skill to learn as a person, anything. If you've ever waited for something to happen and you've ended up having to wait years, holy crap, that's forever. And in the moment, as an American, we want it now. You got a microwave to cook your food fast. Everything's super convenient, super fast, all right there for you. And how that relates to listening, you got to be patient. You got to listen. You got to put yourself out there. I don't claim to know everything. This is just what I've learned through my failures and and the things that I've gone through. And that's been a lot. I am 50. I went from being like this person, I never felt like I was old, and all of a sudden I became the old man. And that was a weird feeling. Gonna tell you, not gonna lie. Crazy weird. But again, you let those kids loose and then they make their own decisions. But you do that and they come back to you. And that was a concept that a lot of the parents that I helped out really struggled with because they were in control. Power and control was a big deal to them. They wanted to be in control of their child's life and what they went through and what they were doing because they knew in their heart of hearts that those kids were going to make a mistake and they're going to screw up. And then the problem is that they controlled so tightly that when the kid made the mistake, they didn't want to go to mom or dad to get answers. They would go to their friends, who becomes their core information gathering section, I guess is how you put it. That's where they got all their information. Their friends who are smarter than them apparently or whatever, and again, that's a whole other conversation. The dynamic of friendships at that age is very different. It was interesting. Again, me from my first video. I love cultures, and the culture of the teen is kind of scary. And it has only gotten worse. I'm joking, but you know, because of the freedom that they have, because they have a phone in their hand that they can look up the answer to, like that, became that instantaneous. I'm smarter than you. And I saw this video the other day. I loved it. This little kid's in the back, and they're at the, I don't know, convenient. They were at McDonald's or something like that, and they were like getting a coffee. And the girl's in the back. She asked for a cookie, and mom's like, "We got cookies at home." And that kid from the back seat, "But we have coffee at home." And they're like, I can't argue with that, So they got the kid a cookie. I mean, kids are getting inherently smarter, and in my opinion, sometimes dumber, because, and that was no disrespect to teens that watch this, because you have that phone to look up that answer immediately, so you feel like you have information going through there faster. I'm smart, and sometimes you get that one over on your parents, and then you're like, I am smarter, and I'm like, not really. That's where I said inherently smarter and dumber at the same time. So yeah, so it's like, that being said, listen. The kid's smarts, and like that little girl in that back seat of that car, and she nailed it, and you got to smile as a parent, because that's a win. You want your kids to be smart. You want them to be smarter than you. You want them to be more successful than you, as a parent, and that's how I am. I wanted every person that I was involved with, every child, every teen, whatever. I wanted them to be successful. I want them to be smart. I want them to and go beyond anything that I ever did. And I think that's the parent's goal across the board. That being said, we can get there. Sometimes we have to let loose a little bit. So I'm going to break into that one a little bit with a different thought. Again, stream of consciousness. It's where it's going. Wherever it goes is where it goes. My brain's like, talk about me. So college. I went to college. When I went to college, I was actually a very active member of my church. I was involved in everything. And my pastor, who I had a very good relationship with, he taught me a lot of really valuable skills. One of the things that he taught me is, we can be friends, but we're not friends. We're friendly, and that was an interesting concept to me. So there was a barrier there that he had kept there, and I kind of liked it, because I always kind of thought my pastor was my friend, but he wasn't my friend. He was my leader, my teacher, whatever, all that stuff that I chose to allow him to do for me. I wasn't mandated by anybody to go in there and be that person. I made that choice. And so through that, I learned, I lost where my train of thought was going, but we want our kids to get bigger. We want them to be better. We want them to be more successful. But we got to listen to them, and we got to actively listen to them. Again, there's times we have to pull the rope in when they're younger, and to protect them from making dumb mistakes, because hey, we all make dumb mistakes, right? You did, I did. No shame in it. That's how we learn, I feel like. You learn through mistakes more than you learn through successes. And listen to your kids, but allow them to let them cultivate that personality. Dude, it's so much fun. Because I did this with my own child. She cultivated her own personality. Do I agree with her all the time? No, we don't. But we love each other and respect each other and listen to each other. And my child is so good at that. She listens to me. She takes in what I say. She makes her decision and she rolls with it. And that's what I wanted. That was how I won in that area. And it wasn't like a win-lose situation, but you know what I mean. You got to let them go a little bit. I don't know how this ended up in being a parental situation thing when I'm trying to talk about active listening, but I guess it all kind of comes together in one big ball of wax. She's an amazing kid. She's smart. She has her likes or dislikes. I don't always agree with them, but I love my child and I will do anything for her. I will protect her with my life. Just like any other person in my charge or my stead. I would. Not in a heartbeat. Again, I want to model myself after my Lord and Savior. That's what he did for us. He sacrificed for me. He gave up his life for me. And this always gets me because I always think about the sacrifice, military sacrifice. When you go out and you give yourself for your country and go out there, whew, wow. I wanted to. I couldn't. I'm a big man, a little fat. Couldn't get into the military because of that. Oh, that was hard. So hard. I struggled with weight my entire life. Still struggle with it. It is what it is. I'm trying. Gotta keep trying. But you gotta let your kids loose. You gotta let them loose a little bit. Let them grow. Let them understand. Cultivate it. That's a really good analogy. You don't just force a plant into being. You plant a seed. It sprouts. It comes up. It matures. And you cultivate it. You pull off the dead leaves. You pull out any weeds that are around it so it doesn't choke out the plant. You cultivate it to become the best plant it can be. And I know it's like, in that analogy. So you help them along. I mean, you don't let them loose completely. Gen X, we were that. Just kind of let loose to go about our own business and figure it out. And that's not always helpful. They need to have that home base. They need to have that stable section of their life to help them through that they can come back to. And when they come back to you as an adult, oh man, you want to talk about emotional. When my kid comes back to me with a problem she's struggling with and I get to be that source of information for her, again, I don't make her decision for her. I just give her the information that she needs. And she listens, she takes it in, and then she goes and makes her decision and goes with it. And I have to live with that too. Not always easy as a parent. But again, I would do anything for my child. Anything. That's the relationship we need to have with our God. Be the child. But God allows us to run, make our mistakes, get as dirty as we are. In the long run, we only have one thing we got to do to get back to it. To come back to God and lay ourselves before him and say, I fucked up. Sorry for the language. I messed up. I need help. How do I fix this? It's not always the answer you want. They're not always going to come in, swoop in, and save the day. Sometimes they just give you the information and you gotta freaking work on it. You gotta put your feet to the ground and make it work. I don't know how we got from active listening to parenting, but that's what I said, stream of consciousness, that's where we're at. I hope y'all have a wonderful day. I hope you enjoy my videos. I don't even know how it's going to go. But we'll get there. We'll figure it out together. I looked at my first video and I watched my first video and dang, I was like, oh my gosh. But the first one's, it's the first pancake, bro. It's going to be bad. The first pancake's always bad. But the second ones are phenomenal. The second pancake, like I don't even know if this is going to be good, but whatever. We're going to try it together. We're going to put ourselves out there, see how it works. Lord, I pray for these people on my podcast and my YouTube community, which is super new. I pray to God that they hear what they need to hear and it helps them. I hope it helps people in a really great way. And Lord, I just thank you, Lord, for each and every one of them. I hope you grow my channel, Lord. Bring people to me. See how it goes. Thank you, guys. Peace out. I just took